October 9th, 2004, 5 in the morning, North Philadelphia. Two men stand outside a row house on the 3200 block of North 6th Street carrying gas cans. The neighborhood is sleeping. The house is dark. Lamont Lewis kicks in the front door. He fires 2 shots into the ceiling. A woman's voice from upstairs asks, "Who's that?" Robert Merritt throws the first gas can. The cloth fuse already lit. The living room explodes. Orange light, instant heat, smoke filling the stairwell. He throws the second can. Another explosion. By 5:20 in the morning, 6 people are dead. 4 of them are children. The youngest is 15 months old. The oldest is 15 years old. 2 adults died trying to save them. This was not a robbery. It was not gang violence. It was not a mistake. This was an order from a federal detention cell by a drug dealer who could not stand the word rat. This is that story. North Philadelphia, 1975. Kaboni Savage grows up in a city where the heroin epidemic is transitioning, where neighborhoods are changing, and where boxing gyms offer young black kids an alternative to the streets. Front Street Gym becomes Kaboni's second home. He has hands, quick footwork, power in his punches. Frankfurt High School student by day, amateur boxer by night, the coaches see potential, maybe golden gloves, maybe beyond. But here's the thing about North Philadelphia in the 1980s and the 90s. The crack epidemic hits the city different. Not just customers, dealers, street-level hustlers building empires before they are old enough to vote. And boxing pays in trophies while the corner pays in cash. Kaboni is 13 when his father dies from cancer. His family needs money. The gym cannot provide that. But Hunting Park can. He starts small, doing corner work, moving weight for older dealers. He learns the game, watching how territories work, who controls which blocks, and how disputes get settled. The answer to that last question is always the same: violence. By his early 20s, Kaboni is not boxing anymore. He is dealing, not corner work, distribution, cocaine, crack, heroin, PCP, and wet marijuana laced with PCP. This is 1997, and Kaboni Savage is becoming someone people fear. Here is what separates Kaboni from other dealers. Most hustlers use violence as a last resort. Kaboni uses it as a business strategy. Intimidation is not a tool. It is the foundation. Rival moves onto your block, do not negotiate, eliminate. Customer gets shaky, do not cut them off, silence them. Witness talks to police, do not hide, retaliate. The message is simple. Cross Kaboni Savage and violence finds you. Not eventually, immediately, but Kaboni is not just muscle. He is strategic. The FBI would later call his operation sophisticated. Runners, lieutenants, enforcers, money counters, stash houses, communication systems, territory management, Hunting Park becomes his base. North Philadelphia becomes his empire. By the late 1990s, Kaboni Savage is moving hundreds of kilograms of cocaine through Philadelphia. Then comes March 19, 1998. Kaboni is driving, looking for parking. Kenneth Lassiter is doing the same. 2 cars try to squeeze into one spot. Lassiter's bumper taps Kaboni's, light contact, no damage. Most people exchange information, maybe argue, then drive away angry. Kaboni Savage gets out of his car, walks over to Kenneth Lassiter, pulls a gun, and shoots him dead right there. The corner of 8th and Butler, a 44-year-old man killed over a parking dispute. A witness sees it, Tibius Tib Flowers. He is going to testify, Kaboni gets arrested and the case goes to trial, but Flowers never makes it to the witness stand. Someone murders him before trial. The FBI suspects Kaboni ordered it from lockup. Without the star witness, the case collapses and Kaboni walks. This becomes the pattern. Murder, arrest, witness, dead witness, acquittal, freedom. The streets learn the lesson. Talk to police about Kaboni Savage, and you will not make it to trial. Your family will not be safe. Nobody is. In 2000, Mansour Shafiq Abdullah, age 22, is shot dead. His body is burned and recovered in the 4200 block of North Park Avenue. Kaboni's message is clear. Not just killed, burned. The violence is meant to be seen, remembered, feared. In 2001, Carlton Muhammad Brown, a rival dealer who made a mistake, had killed Ronald Pumpkin Walston, who was connected to Savage's network. Kaboni orders his hitman, Lamont Lewis, to handle it. Lewis shoots Brown dead, not in the heat of the moment, but as calculated retaliation on September 13, 2001. In 2003, Barry Parker, a rival dealer just out of prison, tried to reestablish himself on a block that now belonged to Kaboni Savage. It did not matter that Parker had been there first. It did not matter that he was simply trying to eat. The block belonged to Savage now. Parker was shot on February 26, 2003. He was 32 years old. 2 weeks later, Tyrone Tolliver, a customer in Savage's operation who was described as shaky and who might talk to police, could not be allowed to live. Tolliver was shot to death inside Eugene Twin Coleman apartment on March 14, 2003. He was murdered. Eugene Twin Coleman was Kaboni's associate and part of the organization. Coleman helped move the body and was later charged as an accomplice. This was strategic, entangling Coleman in the crime, making him complicit and ensuring his silence. But here's where Kaboni made his mistake. He underestimated guilt. Coleman could not live with the body, the blood, and the knowledge that he was tied to murder. Federal agents began talking to Coleman, offering deals, protection, and a way out, and Coleman began listening. On March 1st, 2004, Tibius Flowers, the witness from the Kenneth Lassiter case, was finally murdered. Kaboni Savage and his enforcer, Stephen Northington, shot Flowers dead. He was 32 years old. This was 6 years after Lassiter's murder. 6 years of Flowers living, knowing what he had seen and choosing silence. Kaboni did not forget. The debt was eventually collected. By May 2004, the feds have enough. They indict Kaboni Savage on drug trafficking charges, money laundering, and firearms offenses. The charges are federal, serious, life-altering. Kaboni gets arrested. He is held at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia. There is no bail. The government is building a case, and they are not taking chances. Arrested. But being in federal custody does not stop Kaboni Savage. It barely slows him down. Custody. The FBI puts listening devices in his cell. They record everything. Phone calls, conversations through walls, messages passed through pipes. And what they capture is chilling. Kaboni tells another inmate that killing is all he dreams about. He says, "I am dreaming about killing rats. Their kids gonna pay. Their mother's gonna pay. I am dedicated to their death, man." This is not metaphor. This is not prison bravado. This is intent. Another recording, Kaboni's voice raw with emotion. He says, tears of rage. "I am flooded internally from them. I almost drown myself every night, man. Tears of rage because these sons of bitches gonna pay, man. They gonna pay. Their kids gonna pay. Their mama gonna pay." Rage. The FBI is listening. They are now building a murder case. not just drugs. October 8, 2004, Eugene Coleman is arrested by federal agents. He is in custody now, facing serious charges for his role in the organization, for the body he helped move, for the crimes he witnessed. Arrested. The feds offer him a deal. Testify against Kaboni Savage. Give us everything, and in exchange, we will protect you, Coleman agrees. He is cooperating now. He becomes the rat, the thing Kaboni dreams about killing. Federal agents go to Coleman's mother, Marcella Coleman. She is 54, and she works as a corrections officer at Curran Fromhold Correctional Facility. She knows the game. She knows the risks. Marcella. The agents offer to relocate the family. Witness protection. A new city, new names, a new life. Witness protection. Marcella refuses. She owns a gun. She is a corrections officer. She knows how to defend herself, her house, her neighborhood, her life. She is not running. Refuses. That decision costs everything. The evening of October 8th, 2004. Kaboni Savage is in his cell at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia. He makes a phone call to Lamont Lewis, one of his hitmen. He says he needs Lewis to do him a favor. His tone is cryptic and careful, knowing the feds might be listening. Lewis agrees. Savage tells him that his sister Kedada will explain the details. The call ends. Lewis calls Kedada Savage. She has been coordinating operations while her brother is locked up, passing messages and issuing orders. She knows what Kaboni wants. Kedada tells Lewis to firebomb the Coleman house. Instructions are specific. Do it around 3 or 4 a.m. when everybody is in the house, $5,000 for the job. That evening, Kedada drives Lewis to the 3200 block of North 6th Street, shows him which row house, and makes sure he understands the target. Lewis enlists his cousin, Robert Merritt. They need 2 people for this. Early that morning, on October 9th, 2004, Lewis and Merritt stop at a gas station. They buy 2 gas cans, fill them, and drive to North Philadelphia. They park around the corner from the Coleman house. They stuff cloth into 1 can to serve as a wick, and they carry both cans to the front porch. Inside the row house, 6 people are sleeping. Marcella Coleman, 54, Eugene's mother. The woman who refused witness protection and believed she could defend herself. Demir Jenkins, 15 months old, Eugene's son. A baby. Tamika Nash, 34, Marcella's niece. Khadijah Nash, 10, Tamika's daughter. Taji Porchia, 12, Marcella's grandson. Sean Rodriguez, 15, a family friend staying over. Even the family pit bull is inside. At 5 a.m., Lewis kicks in the front door. He enters the house and fires 2 shots into the air, warning shots to keep everyone upstairs. A woman's voice from upstairs calls out, "Who's that?" Merritt runs in and throws the first gas can into the living room. The cloth fuse is already lit. The explosion is massive. Flames, heat, and black smoke pour upstairs. Merritt grabs the second can and throws it in. Another explosion. Lewis leaves a voicemail on Kedada's phone. It's done. They drive away. Inside the house, the fire spreads fast. From the first floor living room to the stairwell to the second floor. Smoke fills the bedrooms. Heat, darkness, confusion, terror. Marcella Coleman tries to reach the 2 boys. She makes it to their bedroom. She is found later on the floor by their bed. She died trying to save them. Tamika Nash tries to protect baby Demir. She is found kneeling over him She died shielding Eugene's son with her own body. The fire department arrives by 5:20 a.m. They extinguish the flames after about 20 minutes. They find 6 bodies, 4 children and 2 adults. The family dog is also dead in the smoke. Khadijah Nash, 10 years old. Taiji Porchia, 12 years old. Sean Rodriguez, 15 years old. Demir Jenkins, 15 months old. Tamika Nash, 34 years old. Marcella Coleman, 54 years old. This is the deadliest mass murder in Philadelphia since the Lex Street Massacre in 2000. Eugene Coleman is temporarily released from custody to attend the funeral. His mother, his baby son, his niece, and her daughter, his nephews, all dead because he cooperated back in federal custody at FDC Philadelphia. Kaboni Savage's cell is bugged. The FBI records his reaction. Coleman is going to the funerals. Savage laughs. Savage says they should stop off and get him some barbecue sauce. He says pour it on them burnt bitches. 4 children dead, a baby, a 10-year-old girl, 2 teenage boys burned alive in a retaliatory firebombing. And Kaboni Savage is joking about barbecue sauce. The FBI has him on tape, ordering the hit, laughing about the deaths, threatening more violence. Savage says their kids got to pay for making my kids cry. But prosecution takes time. Evidence gathering, witness interviews, building a death penalty case. Kaboni Savage was already convicted in 2005 on the drug trafficking charges. 30 years in federal prison. The murder charges were coming, just not yet. The investigation expands. 12 murders total. Some were directly committed by Savage. Others were ordered from behind bars. 6 of them were ordered after he was already in federal custody. The firebombing was not an anomaly. It was the culmination of a pattern, witness intimidation taken to its logical, horrifying conclusion. In September 2012, jury selection begins for the murder trial, United States versus Kaboni Savage. Also charged were his sister, Khadijah Savage, Robert Merritt, and Stephen Northington. The trial lasts 3 months. Prosecutors present dozens of witnesses. The evidence is overwhelming. Lamont Lewis testifies. He is the hitman who carried out the firebombing, who shot Carlton Brown and Barry Parker, who pulled triggers on Kaboni Savage's orders. He took a deal. 40 years in prison in exchange for testimony. Lewis describes the phone call, Khadijah showing him the house, buying the gas cans, kicking in the door, the explosions, leaving the voicemail. The jury hears the recordings, hours of Kaboni Savage's voice, dreaming about killing rats, threatening children, laughing about the firebombing. They hear how Savage casually shot Kenneth Lassiter over a parking space, how he burned Mansour Abdullah's body, how he ordered hits on rivals, and how he killed Tibius Flowers 6 years after the man witnessed the murder. 3 months of testimony, 3 months of evidence, 3 months of Kaboni Savage's voice on tape. Proud, violent, and unrepentant. On May 13, 2013, the jury deliberates for 1 week. They return with verdicts. Verdict, guilty. Kaboni Savage is found guilty on 17 charges, including 12 counts of murder in aid of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering conspiracy, retaliating against a witness, and using fire to commit a felony. He is guilty on all counts. Khadijah Savage is guilty on 6 counts of murder in aid of racketeering for the Coleman firebombing, retaliating against a witness, and using fire to commit a felony. Robert Merritt is guilty of racketeering conspiracy. The jury acquits him of the actual arson, a verdict that confuses many, but he is convicted of conspiracy. Stephen Northington is guilty on 2 counts of murder in aid of racketeering. The trial moves to the penalty phase, death or life in prison. There are 2 weeks of additional testimony. Prosecutors detail the horror. Marcella Coleman on the floor by the boy's bed. Tamika Nash kneeling over baby Demir. 4 children who would still be alive if Kaboni Savage had accepted that witnesses talk. The defense argues mitigation. Savage lost his father at 13. He had no history of harming prison guards or inmates. He was supporting his family. The prosecution counters with the recordings, where he says he dreams about killing rats and that their kids are going to pay. The jury deliberates for 7 days. In June 2013, the verdict is unanimous: death. 13 death sentences, 1 for witness intimidation, 12 for racketeering murders, 1 for each victim: Kenneth Lassiter, Mansour Abdullah, Carlton Brown, Barry Parker, Tyrone Tolliver, Tybius Flowers, Marcella Coleman, Demir Jenkins, Tamika Nash, Khadijah Nash, Taji Porchia, and Sean Rodriguez. Judge Richard Barclay Sherrick formally pronounces the sentences. Kaboni Savage becomes the first person sentenced to federal death row from the Eastern District of Pennsylvania since the federal death penalty resumed in 1988. He is sent to ADX Florence in Colorado, the Supermax, the most secure prison in America, where they send terrorists, cartel leaders, and the worst of the worst. He is confined 23 hours a day in a concrete cell with 1 hour of recreation in a concrete cage and no human contact. This is where Kaboni Savage will wait for execution. Federal Bureau of Prisons, number 58232066. Kidada Savage receives mandatory life in prison with no possibility of parole. Robert Merritt was sentenced to life. Stephen Northington was sentenced to life. The Coleman family members attended the sentencing. Tina Fox, a relative of the victims, told reporters that the crime was beyond violent. She said the victims were children. They would have been adults now, but they do not have a say. You cannot hear their voices. They were killed innocently. Kaboni Savage has sat on federal death row for over a decade. There were appeals, motions, and other legal challenges. The death penalty process is slow. Federal executions are rare. Only 3 federal prisoners were executed between 1988 and 2024. But then something happens that even the most hardened prosecutors did not anticipate. Mother's Day, 2009, York, Pennsylvania. Kaboni's 9-year-old daughter, Ciara Cece Savage, is playing outside. She is a student at Ross Elementary School. She lives with her mother, Jasmine Vidal, who has not been romantically involved with Kaboni for years. A gang shooting erupts. Wrong place, wrong time. Ciara is hit. She dies at age 9. The shooter, Nigel Maitland, is arrested, convicted of first-degree murder, and sentenced to life in prison. Police and Ciara's mother confirmed the shooting was unrelated to Kaboni's activities. Just random violence. Just a child caught in crossfire. The irony is devastating. Kaboni Savage, the man who ordered 4 children firebombed to death, who laughed about pouring barbecue sauce on them, who said their kids got to pay for making my kids cry, loses his own child to violence. The man who weaponized the murder of children sits in a federal cell while his 9-year-old daughter is buried. The man who showed no mercy for Khadijah Nash, Taji Porchia, Sean Rodriguez, and baby Demir Jenkins now understands what it means to bury a child. Some call it karma, others call it tragedy. The streets call it the game collecting from everyone, even the collectors. But Kaboni's conviction holds. August 2020, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals affirms his death sentence in a 201-page opinion. Chief Judge D. Brooks Smith wrote that the crimes committed by Kaboni Savage were unprecedented in this district in their cruelty and horror. The execution seems inevitable, just a matter of when. Then, December 23, 2024, President Joe Biden, in one of his last acts before leaving office, announces he is commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 federal death row inmates. Kaboni Savage is one of them. His death sentence is converted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 13 death sentences, unanimously decided by a jury, are overturned by executive action. The 3 inmates not commuted are Dylan Roof, the Charleston church shooter Jakar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber, and Robert Bowers, the Tree of Life synagogue shooter. The reason given is terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. Kaboni Savage firebombed a house, killing 4 children and 2 adults as retaliation for cooperation with federal authorities. But apparently, that does not qualify. The families of the victims are devastated. Tina Fox told reporters that the crime was beyond violent. They were children. They would have been adults now, but they did not have a say. You could not hear their voice. They were killed innocently. Conservative critics cite Savage's case as one of the most egregious commutations. Senator Tom Cotton wrote on social media that a jury sentenced Savage to 13 death sentences. But Joe Biden thinks he knows better. The Trump transition team called it a slap in the face to the victims, their families, and their loved ones. But the decision is final. It is Biden's constitutional authority. There is no appeal, no reversal. Kaboni Savage, now 49 years old, will spend the rest of his life in a DX Florence. But he will not be executed. He will not die on the federal government's schedule. He will die of old age, disease, or prison violence, but not lethal injection. The irony is almost too perfect. Savage ordered the firebombing specifically to intimidate witnesses, to send a message that cooperation with federal authorities means death, not just for the witness, but for their families, their children. And in the process, he guaranteed himself 13 death sentences. The jury was unanimous. The judge was clear. The appeals court affirmed federal death row for a decade. Then a presidential commutation saves him from execution. The families of the victims watched the man who killed their loved ones avoid the punishment he was sentenced to receive. Khadijah Nash would be 30 years old now. Taji Porchia would be 32. Sean Rodriguez would be 35. Demir Jenkins would be 21. Instead, they are frozen forever at ages 10, 12, 15, and 15 months. Kaboni Savage sits in a supermax cell in Colorado 23 hours a day, concrete walls, no sunlight, no human contact. This is his life now. No execution date, no countdown to death, just decades of concrete and silence and the knowledge that he will never leave. But here's what makes this different from other kingpin stories. Most dealers get caught for the drugs, the money, the violence. Kaboni got caught for all three. What sealed his fate was the witness intimidation, the systematic elimination of anyone who might testify, the firebombing that killed 4 children. If Kaboni Savage had accepted that Eugene Coleman was cooperating, if he had let it go, if he had understood that he was already facing 30 years and that adding 6 more murders from behind bars would not help anything, those children would still be alive. Marcella Coleman would be 74 now, enjoying grandchildren, retirement life. Tamika Nash would be 54. Khadijah would have graduated college. Teji would be starting a career. Sean would have a family. Baby Demir would be in his 20s. But Kaboni Savage dreamed about killing rats, about their kids paying, about their mothers paying. So he ordered the firebombing from a federal detention cell while already facing 30 years, while the FBI was recording everything. And he laughed about it, saying, "Pour some barbecue sauce on them burnt bitches." Eugene Coleman lives with it every day. His mother gone, his baby son gone, his niece and her daughter gone, his nephew's gone. He testified, got them killed, and survived. That is not victory. That is a life sentence of guilt. The neighborhood where the Coleman family died has changed. The row house on North 6th Street was torn down. New construction replaced it. But the residents remember. October 9th, 2004, the fire trucks, the smoke, the bodies carried out in bags. Philadelphia remembers too. The firebombing became shorthand for witness intimidation taken to its darkest extreme. Law enforcement uses it in training. This is what happens when you do not protect witnesses. This is what happens when violence becomes the only language. The case changed federal prosecution strategies. Witness protection is not optional anymore. Families get relocated whether they want to or not. Marcella Coleman's refusal, her belief she could defend herself, cannot happen again. The government learned that lesson in Fire and Death. The federal government built a death penalty case. It spent years prosecuting. A 3-month trial, thousands of hours of investigative work. The jury deliberated for weeks. 13 death sentences, unprecedented in Philadelphia's modern history. And then one presidential signature commuted all of it to life in prison. Some call it mercy, others call it injustice. The law calls it executive authority. Kaboni Savage calls it life, because that is what he has now, not execution, life. In a concrete box in Colorado, 23 hours a day, for the next 30 or 40 years, until his heart stops or disease takes him. The children he killed do not get life. They got fire, smoke, terror in the darkness, dying in their beds while someone's mother tried to save them, and someone's cousin shielded a baby with her own body. 4 children, 2 adults, ordered from a prison cell, carried out with saline and cloth fuses, laughed about on FBI recordings. 13 death sentences, reduced to life without parole. Kaboni Savage will die in prison, just not on anyone's schedule, but nature's. The FBI tapes still exist. His voice is still preserved, talking about tears of rage, about killing rats, about making kids pay. The families still grieve. Khadijah's birthday comes every year. Tajid's, Sean's, Damir's, empty chairs at Thanksgiving, missing faces in photo albums, trauma passed down through generations. That is the real sentence, not 13 death sentences, not life. In Supermax, the real sentence is the permanent damage, the hole in the world where 4 children should be. Kaboni Savage spent his life building a reputation on violence. The man you did not cross, the dealer you did not testify against, the kingpin who would kill your family to send a message. He succeeded. Everyone knows what he did. The firebombing is infamous. The FBI recordings are legendary. The 13 death sentences made history, but he is still in a cell. The children are still dead. The families are still broken. And a presidential commutation just means he will die slower. That is not mercy. That is not justice. That is just time. Decades of it. In concrete. In Colorado. In silence. On December 23rd, 2024, Kaboni Savage's death sentence was commuted to life without parole. He was 49. He is held at ADX, Florence Supermax. He is federal inmate number 8232-066. 4 children dead, 2 adults dead, 13 death sentences, 1 commutation. The barbecue sauce joke is still on tape. The tears of rage are still recorded. The firebombing still happened. The children are still gone. That is the story. That is the truth. That is all.